what is propaganda really? You have heard the term propaganda. At its core, propaganda is a strategic communication that is designed to influence how people think. It influences how people feel and act, often by presenting a selective version of reality. It doesn't mean that it is always false. In fact, the most effective propaganda often mixes truth, half-truth, and emphasis. Because controlling what people focus on can just be as powerful as controlling what they know. The word propaganda comes from the Latin propagare, and it means to spread. Propaganda was first institutionalized in 1622 by the Congregation of the Propagation of the Faith, established by the Catholic Church to spread religious doctrine. At that time, propaganda wasn't seen as negative, because at that time it simply meant spreading ideas deliberately. The darker connotation of propaganda came later. Now, propaganda became a powerful political tool during major historical upheavals. I don't know how many of you know about the revolutionary periods where the French Revolution, during the French Revolution, pamphlets, speeches, and newspapers were used to mobilize support, demonize opponents, and simplify complex realities into emotional narratives. So whoever controlled the message often controlled the momentum. Many of you would be too young, but I can tell you that polls are propaganda tools. What they call political polls. As a matter of fact, anyway, at the same time, democratic governments also use propaganda to unify populations and sustain morale. Because you see, people don't just respond to facts. They respond to stories that make them feel something. Today, propaganda doesn't always look like posters or speeches. It operates through news cycles, social media. Right here on TikTok, you would be shocked to know the amount of propaganda that is up here. Across the media, influencers and surrogates. Surrogates are individuals that are paid functionaries of political parties, and they are briefed as to what to go out and say. What they do is selectively frame events. It is more subtle but it is very powerful. Propaganda works because it taps into how the human mind naturally operates. The thing you have to understand is that you have emotions. And if people can get you to respond with your emotions, then that's easy. People can get you to be fearful. Yes, to be in outrage. These override critical thinking. I want you to follow me because I'm taking this somewhere, you see. If something makes you feel strongly, you are less likely to question it. For example, last week we heard a story coming out about adults having sex in front of children. That's a manipulative story. Now, I'm not suggesting that the story is necessarily wrong. All I'm saying is that it has an emotional trigger about it. And so those who are involved in deliberate propaganda go for the emotions. And then you have repetition. When you say something enough times, it becomes or begin to feel true. All I need to do is to keep repeating it. Even doubtful ideas gain legitimacy through familiarity. Yes, so you have the trigger of the emotions. Then you have the repetition. And then you have what is called simplification. Complex issues are reduced to good versus bad, us versus them. And this makes them easier to spread and harder to critically examine. One of the most powerful techniques, you see, is the control of attention. Not telling people what to think, but telling them what to think about. If all attention is on one issue, everything else fades. Even the more important ones fades. And I'm going to hint something to you, that the performance of the government is being drowned out by a propaganda strategy. What Jamaicans ought to be talking about is the good work of the government's budget, and the progress that we are making as a nation over the last 10 or so years. But alas, there is a strategy in Jamaica to drown that out. Because if attention fades on that, then the opposition becomes more viable. And I want the government, I'm giving them free advice. And I'm giving the bloggers who have their issues with me, I'm giving you free advice. Careful of propaganda and others trying to control the narrative. The Jamaican state is in fine form. The Jamaican government making lots of strides for the people. We're not hearing about it because there is a propaganda machine in Jamaica, and it is setting the agenda. Messages are often delivered through media personalities. It's not everything you hear on radio is coming out of the radio station. There are channels that are set up just for propaganda. community voices, some that are called independent commentators. They are not independent. They are propagandists. It makes them feel organic rather than strategic. Hear me carefully. The People's National Party is trying to drown out the performance of the government. And I don't have any evidence to suggest this, but I have applied the lens of philosophy on a story that came out last week. And I think it's part of a strategy. I did a little bit of research today, and I got a little bit of information from a man called Michael. And he argued that power operates through control of discourse. Listen to me carefully. Power operates through the control of the discourse. That's why you need to support the Politics Plus podcast and the Hello Neighbor show. Because we can't be controlled. We're not controlled by anybody. There's no political party paying us any money. Those persons who have those views out there, a lie them I tell. A lie. Them lie. This show here is supported only by the listeners. Okay? And our very supporters up here do not tell us what to say. They do not tell us what to say. We have exclusive editorial control of what comes out. Power over perception. Yes, power operates through the controlling of the discourse. What is spoken, repeated, and accepted as truth. Yes, people don't respond directly to reality, you know, but to the pictures in their head. That is why for students, you don't put pure words. You put picture, you know, in the books, because you want them to have the perception of what is happening. One of these days, I'm going to break down that perception thing for you, because it's not everything you see, you know. It's not everything you think you see, because your eyes captures an image, and sometimes it's not what you think you see, because the information that your eyes capture, your eyes have to transmit that to your brain, and your brain have to decipher what did you see. Yes, one of these days, maybe soon, coming up in this week, I'll tell you why it's not everything you think you see. By the way, when you look up into the sky at night, you think you see star? It's not star you see. We get back to that. Propaganda shapes those pictures. Okay? Why it matters in the democracy is because in a democracy, propaganda doesn't always come from one place. It comes, I want neighbor rights, and labor rights. I want you to, I'm preparing you, you know. I'm preparing you to hit the road, arming you with the information, giving you the facts. It's facts we talk on this program. We don't talk propaganda. We don't talk propaganda. I want to open your eyes and make you understand. Yes? Understand what the issues are, so that you can be a good citizen. Yes? A good neighbor, right? You're a neighbor, right? Come to the show. I'm sorry. Yeah. Anyway, in a democracy, propaganda doesn't always come from one place. It can come from especially the opposition. And my reading tells me that the opposition is using propaganda to blunt the government's performance. Somebody told me yesterday that I'm to pick up this book and I'm to go through it and see the various achievements of the Jamaica Labour Party. My listeners, whether you're a neighbor or a comrade, the Andrew Holness-led administration has broken every striking record in Jamaica when it comes on to performance. There is no matrix, and this is uncontested facts I'm telling you. This is not no propaganda. And I challenge any PNP to come up here and deny it and break it. Any PNP listening to this program, I could have marked Golding. I challenge you, send me a request and come up here and tell me if there have not been improvements in every single sector of Jamaica. There has been improvement. Every single sector. Just last week, the Minister of Security brought in 170 odd vehicles for the police force. 170 odd. More vehicles. New van, new bike. Every sector of Jamaica is doing well. But that's not what people are talking about. Because if they talk about the performance of the government, the opposition dead in the water. So the opposition try to change the narrative. They cannot allow the people to talk about the things the government is doing. So I am going to make an appeal to the Jamaica Labour Party bloggers. Top focus on matters that are not relevant and focus on the performance of your government. Tell the people about the things that your party, the party, is doing to better the lives of the Jamaican people, because there is a system in place to detract and to distract your minds away from policy. Because there is a lot of competing voices, and it creates a constant struggle, not over policy, but over perception. Now, the real danger, the greatest danger, isn't that propaganda exists. It is that people may accept narratives without questioning, focus only on what is loudest, and confuse emotional intensity with importance. What happens, yes, is that when that happens, citizens stop thinking independently and start reacting predictably. Hear me when I tell you this. Had there been no propaganda at work in Jamaica, the Labour Party would probably have 50 seats in Parliament or more. It is propaganda that has kept the government's performance off the agenda and put things there that don't matter, lies, emotional stuff. A politically aware citizen does not reject everything. They interrogate everything. And that is what I want my listeners to develop. I want my listeners to be interrogators. You must question things when you hear it. Don't just accept it. Even when you hear it on the news, question it. You interrogate. You must ask some questions. Why is this story dominating right now? Think about it. Why did the JTA president last week come up with that story? Why is it that that story captured headlines and the news last week? Ask yourself that question. Why? What emotions is it trying to trigger? What might I not be paying attention to? Think about it. Think about it. Let me provide the context. The PNP on Sunday puts out a press statement. Sunday, last week Sunday, a press statement comes out of the PNP. The press statement says that the opposition leader has taken some action against the gentleman involved in the Japden affair, including a recusal from the parliamentary committee. The story took off because it highlights a problem in the PNP where Mark Golding is seen as complicit or even weak, supporting the colleague. Monday, it's all over the news. The Japden story is all over the news, and the PNP is bleeding, not literally, but figuratively. Bad press. G2K, Young Jamaica, calls upon them to do things, to resign, to disclose whether the party is collecting money from Japden. By Wednesday, the PNP's house is almost on fire. What happens? The JTA president, a known PNP man, goes to the conference and comes up with an emotive story. And what happens? Every TikToker, every news, every media in Jamaica goes for the emotive story. And to date, no one has been able to tell us anything more on that. Can't you see what is happening? What might I not be paying attention to? Because once you understand propaganda, you begin to see that the real battlefield is not just in politics. It is attention itself. Now, you can use propaganda to win elections. You don't have to perform, You can be the worst performer. This is why I want you liberates, you bloggers for the JLP. Listen. Don't think that anything is in the bag. Propaganda helps shape the lens through which voters interpret events. You have 5 senses. Now, what's happening here? Let me get back. You have 5 senses. Those senses don't operate on their own, They don't operate on their own. Which is why I'm going to remind me. If I don't do it, remind me. Remind me to help you understand how you interpret information. What is perception? My lecturer, Dr. Lee, if you are listening, good evening to you. You help to teach me this, okay? No problem. I can teach it to my listeners. Propaganda helps shape the lens through which voters interpret events. The same situation can be presented as progress or failure. Strong leadership can be sold as authoritarianism. Delays in procurement processes can be interpreted as corruption. Whoever successfully frames reality often shapes voter judgment. It aligns with what Walter Lippmann described. He says that people respond not to the world directly, but to the pictures in their head. The pictures in their head. That is why Pepsi and Coke are not good drinks. Pepsi, Coke, not good drinks, you know. But no other drink in the world sells as much as Pepsi and Coke. Why? You think there's no strategy behind it? Well, it is a framing of reality. And when you frame reality, you can control the agenda. One of the most powerful electoral tools is deciding what voters are thinking about. This book here that the Labour Party put out, you hear anybody pick it up back since the election? You hear anybody pick up back this book since the election? Why? Was it only an election strategy for the party? This book should be in every Labour right hand. They should walk with it as a Bible. One of the most powerful tools in deciding what voters are thinking about is a great electoral tool. If election becomes about crime, one type of candidates benefit. If it becomes about the economy, another may benefit. If it is about scandal, then trust becomes central. This is known in political science as agenda setting, a subtle but decisive form of influence. Voters are really purely rational, you know. Don't think that it's rational. Oh, the government has done so well, they're going to vote for us. No. It's emotional mobilization. Why do you think they have large rallies and run ads on TV and radio? Why? It's emotional mobilization. You have to get people. You have to get people to feel good. And so voters' propaganda taps into fear. Things will get worse. Propaganda taps into hope. Change is possible. Propaganda taps into anger. You are being wronged. Emotions drive turnout. Loyalty and persuasion far more effectively than statistics. If people don't feel good, they ain't coming out. And this is it's quite historic, you know. It's a minute after 7 o'clock. Thank you for staying with us. Propaganda has played a role in elections and political movements for centuries. During the French Revolution, as I told you earlier, competing fractions use media to rally support and discredit rivals. During the 20th century, figures like Joseph demonstrated how mass messaging could shape political outcomes through extreme and dangerous ways. Modern democracies don't operate in the same way, but the underlying principle of influence remain. And here is why it matters. Because propaganda can help win elections, even for parties that don't perform well. And so in any democracy, the ultimate defense is not the absence of propaganda. It is the presence of critical thinking. It is the presence of critical thinking. And if you are a neighbor, right, you are going to learn to think. You are going to learn to think. Thinking make it a man. Mr. Perkins of blessed memory, they used to call his program the Thinking People Show. Learn to think and don't take what people say to you and just take it like that. Think about it. What is being emphasized and why? What might be missing from this narrative? Am I reacting emotionally or evaluating carefully? You notice that if we start an emotional discussion over here, so the numbers are going to jump from 221 to 300 fast. And sometimes I have thought about it. Do I use that strategy to get 1,000 viewers? I said no. Because they don't last. The audience we have listening to us here right now are solid people that want facts. They want the truth. So if I come here with propaganda at night time, I can easily hit 1,000 people. Because people are going to want the emotion, the emotive. If I start to take off my shirt, yes, and start winding up myself, I bet you say we have 500 people here, so in 10 minutes, I bet you. You want me to do it? Yes. Because while propaganda can influence elections, it only succeeds fully when people stop questioning it. DJs and those people who sing, no, you just need to put some sexual thing in your show. You dare me, Blueberry? You dare me? don't dare me. And it sells. You ever hear them say sex sells? Yeah, it does. And therefore, I'd like to talk to you over the next couple of minutes, having laid the foundation about the threat of distraction guarding the mind of the nation. Because there is a quiet danger that has undone societies long before any external enemy could touch them. And I am telling the Jamaica Labour Party, don't let it happen to you. Keep the performance of the government in the eyes of the people. Keep it there. There is a quiet danger that has undone societies long before external enemies could touch them. It was not an invasion. It was not even poverty. It is distraction. And I'm going to tell you, we have been distracted And I want to bring you back to the ground. Take your mind off things that are not mattering. Quite frankly, there may be no truth to that story about no adults having no sex in no school until we have the evidence. Leffy alone. People can use lies to distract you and take you away from the real issues. When heat is turned up under some people, they have to deflect. Like the heat shield that they put on the capsule coming back from the moon. Bounce off the heat. That JTA man is a comrade. Let him provide the evidence or don't talk about it. Distraction. And we can spend the rest of the term being distracted by the PNP and their issues and fail to tell the Jamaican people what the government is doing for them. $10 billion have been distributed. Talk about that. Crime is down by over 20%. Talk about that. Electricity has been restored to almost 100% of Jamaica since a hurricane, the most devastating hurricane in the history of the world. In the history of the world, yes. Talk about that. Talk about the fact that minimum wage is going up. All the many good things happening in Jamaica. We're not hearing that. What we are hearing about is some little distraction. Not the harmless kind that feels idle time, but the deliberate kind. Nationwide spent the whole of Thursday and Friday covering that story. The kind that redirects attention away from progress. Progress is not being covered in Jamaica. Lies are being covered, not truth. Away from the slow demanding work of building a nation, Jamaica is being rebuilt from hurricane. That's a striking story. That is the story. The main story in Jamaica is that the country is rediscovering itself after a devastating hurricane. And the lazy people them down at TVJ and CVM, before them send their reporters down to into the communities to see what, I went into Trelawney. I went into Trelawney last week. And I tell you this, brothers, when I went to Trelawney after the hurricane, we couldn't drive on the road. We had to take go through one hoodland. And when I went there last week, the road was repaired. The road patch. The roofs are back on. You drove to Trelawney, you never know that we had a hurricane. That is the story that is to be covered. Not no picnic, seeing sex in classroom, which is an allegation. That no story. Okay? The nation's attention is being purposefully redirected away from progress, because progress benefits the government and it hurts the opposition. And I'm putting it to you tonight that it is propaganda. And most of the traditional media houses have fallen into it. This platform is redirecting attention. If you don't want to listen to what we are covering, well, you don't listen. But we're not covering propaganda, and we're not covering the hype, and we're not covering the little little foolishness that everybody has covered. We are covering progress. We are directing our listeners to focus on the bigger picture and left those things behind. History, you see, history teaches us that whenever people begin to move forward, whenever you begin to move forward unevenly, imperfectly, but forward, there will arise competing forces every time to seek to control not the reality on the ground, but the perception of that reality. I want to say that again, because it is a theological illustration I just drew on. And you know this in your personal life too, that anytime you begin to make progress with your life, there comes Satan. Anytime you begin to look forward, to move forward, anytime you begin to be successful, anytime you begin to do anything that is gaining momentum, here comes the detractors. Trying to seek control. You know, I may not say this and I may get into trouble. There are people who come up on this program here, they don't wish the program no good, you know. They will come up here to promote themselves. And it's not you me talking, my friends in the box. I'm not talking about you. Because if we were a failing platform, who would have seen us? This is not new. It's all politics itself. You think that the PNP is happy that the government is doing well? You think they're happy? You think they're happy that Jamaica... Let me tell you this. And this may sound rash. It may sound hard. It may even sound partisan. But I can't help it but tell you the truth. The People's National Party wants Jamaica to fail. They really want to govern over the ashes. That's raw politics. If Jamaica succeeds, the PNP will not return to government. And so it is not in the PNP's interest for Jamaica to succeed. As far as the PNP is concerned, murder for a runway, no job, no for a create, and everything for mash up. That's just raw politics. Because the worse it is, the better for them. Now you may say, boy, this is unpatriotic, but that is politics. Opposition parties don't want the country to progress. It's not in there. You think if the economy grow by 10%, the PNP have a chance? What if we should wake up tomorrow morning and murder is down? Less than 100 people are unalived in Jamaica. Do you think that the PNP could ever see government? No. It's the old partisan politics. That's why politics can be so brutal and selfish. The forums of ancient republics, the pamphlets of wars in early Europe, the mass media revolutions of the 20th century. The struggle has never only been over what is happening, you know. It's over what people believe is happening. The language of philosophy is a battle between truth and the narrative. Why you think the PNP cannot come out and agree that murder is down? They can't do it. That's politics. Don't make nobody fool you. They know it is down. But they can't say it. Because how can the PNP come out and say, oh, congratulations to the government, they have brought down murder? Then for them party no dead, man. You have to spin it. Politics is about spin. And as they spin, you have to be able to bat. The language of psychology is the battle for attention. Because attention is power. And what a nation chooses to focus on becomes the nation's reality. And I'm telling you, friends, focus on the building of the nation. And don't be distracted. Focus your attention. Guard the mind of the nation. It's about the progress Jamaica is making. And don't focus on the PNP and them propaganda. Them and them surrogates, them civil society groups, their media organizations. You become an advocate for your country. And this is not you getting involved in politics. This is you being a patriotic Jamaican. Stop making the people fool you up with nonsense. Foolish stories them coming out with. Because what we ignore becomes invisible. No matter how real, no matter how impactful. Did you know that Spanish Town, the Spanish Town, the old capital of Spanish Town, is getting almost a brand new hospital? You hear anybody talking about that? Big story. The moderator for this program has been beating us to focus on the major themes coming out of the budget. I agree with her. The rebuilding of Black River. Who you hear talking about the fact that tomato down a town are sell for $50 a pound? That agriculture has rebounded. You think it just rebound by itself? Who is talking about the fact that Jamaica today is so positioned after a devastating hurricane that it is able to give a wage increase to minimum wage workers? Who is talking about that? That is why when we say to you, give us a $10, send a $20 to the Zelle account, is because we want to go and cover these stories for you, to show you the good things that are happening in your country so that you don't be distracted. Jamaica is rebuilding. Jamaica is pushing forward. Yes, attention is power. And so distraction becomes a tool. Distraction becomes a tool that is used to blunt the positive message of progress. Do not be distracted. And it's not always through falsehood, but through selection, amplification, and timing. You notice the JTA man's timing. Think about it. Don't have to accuse him. I just want you to think about it. A minor issue becomes a national crisis. An internal conflict becomes a defining story. A moment of noise is stretched until it drowns out months or years of quiet progress. Before the Jamaica Labour Party put this book in place, did you know about these things? May I ask you, did you know about them? Did you know about all these things that were happening in Jamaica? Years of progress drowned out by rubbish about 28 bank account. Years of progress drowned out by the Prime Minister's statutory declaration, and the Prime Minister cannot authorize it for himself. Years of progress. Why? They don't want people to see what happening in the country. You must take your mind off of the truth and focus on the lie. It's propaganda, deliberate propaganda. And therefore, when an election draws near, it takes the government 6 months to recalibrate minds. Don't have enough time. The Jamaica Labour Party need all of its supporters to be ambassadors for the party. Not to wait until 6 months before an election to reframe the narrative. You have to start from now. Elections are won after an election is won. The campaign for the 4th term don't start 6 months before the election. It starts right now. Because if the minds become encased with a false narrative, you can't rub it out. It's hard to rub out. When you shape perception, you are shaping behavior. The psychologists have long observed what is called negative bias. Negative bias is the human tendency to give more weight to bad news than good. Have you ever heard the analogy that man bite dog is dog bite man, don't make the news. But man bite dog is headlines. Thousands of airplanes take off every day, you know, and they land safely. Thousands. But when one have an accident, it dominates the news for the entire month. You have to understand what make news. Moments of noise stretch until it drowns out the positive news stories. You know how many patients go to hospitals and come out every day and then get through? You know how many operations the surgeons do? One mistake. And that one bad story drowns out all the good one. Negative bias. And when you add to that what is called confirmation bias, our inclination to believe what already aligns with our feelings, and you have the perfect condition for distraction to take roots. And I beg you, brothers and I think I am in church. I beg you, listeners, do not be distracted. We begin to consume not what is most important, but what is most emotionally charged. And over time, something subtle but dangerous happens. The people can become more informed than ever before, but they are less aware of reality. How anybody say now go on to Jamaica? How anybody say that? That's not the reality. But there are those who have successfully gotten people to think that it is so. This is where the role of media becomes both powerful and precarious. Because media at its best is the guardian of democracy. The guardian of democracy. What media does, it checks power. It provides a voice to the voiceless. It holds up a mirror to the nation. But you and I know that media is also an institution. And like all institutions, it is not immune to bias. Media is not immune to influence. Media can be bought out. Media is not immune to corruption. There are people parading as journalists in Jamaica. They are known journalists. They are corrupt. They're biased. Pollsters are involved in that too. Some of them are paid pimps. They are paid to put out narratives. You think every poll come out is a poll? Paid to put out the narrative. And when media begins to prioritize speed over depth, engagement over accuracy, or narrative over nuance, then they unintentionally become a participant in the distraction rather than a defender against it. You know, many people in Jamaica rely on a particular radio station, which I will not call, for news. And once them says are true, I want you, my listeners, to change that. No matter which radio station it's coming from. You make sure I tell you this, that they are also open to be corrupt. And some of the stories that you hear coming out, people have paid for it. Paid to have it written, paid to have it printed, to benefit their political narrative and their political party. And in a small democracy like Jamaica, where politics is deeply felt and widely discussed, the effects are magnified. Because here political identity is not abstract. It is personal. It lives in communities, in families, in history. Sometimes I'm sorry for my Jamaican brothers and sisters. Sometimes I am sorry for them. Because I see the wool that they've dragged over their eyes. And this is why I push education. And I push for you, I beg you, read. I beg you. Read something. Research something for yourself. The long-standing dynamic between the parties has not only shaped governance, but perception itself. And within such context, distraction can easily take on a partisan form. Because stories are framed not just to inform, but to persuade. I vote them a beg, I vote them a buy, I vote them a look. When you hear those news coming out from the radios, you think they are news? I vote them a look. Vote them a look. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we set out to deceive our people. And I never believed this. I've never believed it until I started doing this program. That it is not in the interest of some to educate the people. It's not in the interest of some to educate the people. Because nobody couldn't come at my gate. Come offer me nothing to vote for them. They never done it, they can't do it. But when you have trapped people in a cycle of under-education, then you can control them. And ultimately get them to do what you want them to do. We have a responsibility. Yeah? We have a responsibility. It rests with the people. A democracy does not survive on participation alone. It survives on discernment. On discernment. Citizens must become more than consumers of information. They must become evaluators of it, to ask questions. You have to wait. Because in the end, the greatest threat to a democracy is not disagreement. It is distraction. It is distraction. It is distraction. And I must admit, we have been distracted. But we have to refocus. We have to reject distortion. We have to rise above manipulation. We have to rebuild a culture of thoughtful engagement, and we have to remain anchored in truth. Reject distortion. Rise above manipulation. Rebuild a culture of thoughtful engagement and remain anchored in truth. Write them down. Because distraction can be so powerful that a people can no longer see clearly what is before them. And a nation that cannot see clearly cannot choose wisely. If you can't see clearly, you can't choose wisely. But a nation that leans in and learns to guard its attention, to discipline its focus, to think beyond the moment, is a nation that is just not politically active. It is politically mature. And maturity is more than anything else, is what sustains freedom. And there is an old truth, 24 to 8 o'clock. There's an old truth, repeated centuries. Centuries, it has been repeated. Power is exercised not only through force, but through perception. What people believe to be true, what they are encouraged to focus on, and what they are persuaded to feel. These are what shape reality as much as policies or institutions. I have not been able, I must tell you the truth, to decipher how could a government perform this well and only win 35 seats. No matter what them tell me, it baffles me. I can't understand it. And I must tell you the truth. Apart from the money, damsel, propaganda. And so whenever scrutiny intensifies, like last week when everybody was focused on Jack Den, whatever the name, whenever the light is turned inward on any political movement, hear me carefully, any political move, any organization, there's often an emergence of a familiar instinct. Redirect the gaze. Take off the light off of it. I don't want to talk American politics here, but you see that war in Iran? Many have linked it to the Epstein files. Think about that. Go wide. But let me not go wide here because it's very technical. Whenever you see scrutiny intensifying, whenever the light is being turned on you, the politics of distraction comes in. Take off the light off of you. You can't take the heat. You have to come out of the kitchen. Run them around. They redirect the gaze. This is not unique to any country, you know. And it's not unique to any party either. It is a recurring pattern in the history of human governance. When pressure mounts, pipe bursts. When pressure mounts, when uncomfortable questions arise, when internal fractures threaten to become visible, the battlefield shifts from substance to story. And I think the PNP successfully pulled one out of the hat last week. I tell you the truth. I think they successfully pulled one out of the hat last week. Pull it out of the hat with this story. And I'm calling upon my listeners. Let us refocus. When pressure mounts, piper boss, man can't take the pressure. They have to find a way to take off some of the heat. This is in social science, you know. The philosophers are warned about this, you know. Plato, in the Republic, Plato explored the idea that those who shape the story, those who shape the story of a society, often shapes its understanding of truth itself. That's more than 2,000 years. Plato wrote that the idea that those who shape the story of a society often shape its understanding of truth itself. You've heard me talk about Machiavelli, the Machiavellian doctrine. Machiavelli, he observed that political actors must learn not only how to act, but how to appear. You ever hear about Mussolini? Because appearance, when carefully managed, can become a form of control. It's how it is. Human beings are not neutral processors of information, you know. We are drawn to what is dramatic. That's why Rosalie have enough people over there. We are drawn to what is emotional. What it is that confirms what we suspect. If I am preaching or if I'm giving a speech and I just stand up there and I talk, nobody not listen. But if you get involved and you start to, you know, give hand movements and you engage, you become a little bit more received. And so if one wish to shift attention away from uncomfortable scrutiny, the tools are not difficult to imagine. It's not difficult, you know. All you have to do is to get, and I can tell you this, watch and see if one more distraction now come out this week. Get one of your surrogates to raise an emotive story and take off the pressure off a little bit, man. Easy. Elevate a competing controversy. Amplify conflicts elsewhere. Introduce emotionally charged narratives. Deploy surrogates. Voices that appear independent but reinforce a particular frame. They have tried it here on the Politics Plus. You encourage media cycles that prioritize urgency over depth. The real issue, strategically magnified, can eclipse a more significant one unfolding quietly. And so the real story of Jamaica today is not being spoken about. What we are speaking about is allegations. Because our attention is rerouted. Our attention is rerouted. The public conversation moves, not necessarily towards what matters most, but towards what is most visible. And this is what makes media both indispensable and vulnerable. Because at best, it illuminates. At its worst, especially under pressure, it can become an unwitting conduit for narrative battles. I want to stop. You hear? I want to stop right there. But before I close this out, you see, let me just tell you this before I close. There comes a time, you see, in every nation when the greatest threat is not crisis, it is distraction. And I think Jamaica right now is distracted. Distracted. And when a people give a mandate, they are not choosing perfection. They are choosing direction. The people of Jamaica gave the Jamaica Labour Party a mandate on the September last year. And what they were saying is, this is the path we are willing to test. This is the leadership we are willing to hold accountable. And we must recognize that not every headline deserves our energy. Not every conflict deserves our attention. And not every political tremor represents national failure. This government, they have a mandate for 5 years. Nothing can change that. Stop listening to the noise. Hold the government accountable. Look at what the government is doing. Whatever the PNP want to say now is of no moment. Nothing, no moment at all. They have no, they are of no moment right now. We are not in a political cycle. We're not in an election. The next election is due 2030. And the government we must look at now. What is the government doing? How are they fulfilling the manifesto that they put to us? Not the PNP's manifesto. Their manifesto is dead. Don't want to hear nothing from them. Sideshows. Noise them make up. For what? To distract the people. Spectacle. Not substance. Because I want you to understand that governance is not theater, you know. Governance is responsibility. The opposition can continue with them theater. They can set up them stage show and get their people to watch their failing movies. Nobody's watching it. Let Mark Golding and his bunch keep their show. The people of Jamaica need to focus on their government that they have elected. Hold your government accountable. Look at what your government is doing. You have given the government a mandate. So why are you paying the PMP mine? Now, if two men come to you to be employed, and you employ one of them, your business with the other one, you don't have no more vacancy. When I turn up at the gate every day for, let the man make him do work. After his contract expires, then you open the application again. Jamaica has not opened any application, so we're not into that yet. Accountability of the people requires something more than emotion. It requires discipline. We must recognize that not every headline deserves our energy. Not every conflict deserves our attention. And not every political tremor represents moral failure. A distracted nation cannot build. A divided focus cannot develop. And a restless people cannot rise. Build, Jamaica, build. Develop, Jamaica, develop. Rise, Jamaica, rise. But if you are distracted, you can't rise. If you keep looking back, you can't go forward. We must reject the temptation to be pulled into every argument, every internal struggle, every moment of political theater. We must recognize that every headline, not every headline deserves our attention. Recognize that. And then you must reject the temptation to be pulled into every argument. Not cover every story. Not read every one. Not listen to every lie. Some lives turn them off. Theatrics. Because when we spend all our time watching the stage, we forget the measure of the work. And it is work that determines whether lives improve, not theater. Andrew Holness cannot afford to be distracted, because if Andrew Holness get distracted, path money can't run. If Andrew Holness get distracted, the people are going to lose their benefit on the JUTC. If the government get distracted and can buy police car and pay people them salary and build roads and hospitals and fire station, we must reject the temptation to be pulled into every argument. It's not every time opposition open their mouth and chat, you need to respond. They get paid for chat. It is work that determines whether lives improve. Where did Action answer? Is Action do that? And Marie Vaz, is Action do that? Mark Golding can chat. Chatting can put food in a people mouth. And build a highway. Chatting can build highway and build hospital and police car. And find $10 billion to give back people, build up their house. Action to that. Recognize that not every headline deserves your energy. Reject the temptation to be pulled into every argument. And rise. Rise not in anger but in awareness to ask better questions. Is your community safer? Are opportunities expanding in Jamaica? Are systems improving? Are lives becoming more stable, dignified, and hopeful? Rise, man. These are the measures that matter. Not the opposition internal foolishness and Malava's allegations. rise and rebuild. Rebuild the mindset as a people. Rebuild your mindset as a people. To understand that progress is really loud. It is often quiet, incremental, uneven, but real. And if we are not careful, you see, we will overlook it. Not because it is not happening, but because we are too distracted to see it. We must recognize. We must reject. We must rise. We must rebuild our mindset. And finally, we must remain. We must remain focused. We must remain thoughtful. We must remain committed to the long view, because nation building is not an event. It is a process. It is not one in a moment. It is sustained over time. So let others chase every controversy. Let others be consumed by every shift in political wind. But we must stay anchored. Anchored in the purpose of the party you support. Anchored in the vision of the Jamaica Labour Party. Anchored in the responsibility to hold your government accountable. Anchored in the understanding that the future of Jamaica is not shaped by noise. It is shaped by focus. And you have a focus leader. And that is why the results are what they are. I want to thank you for listening to the notes. And I want to encourage you to support the Hello Neighbor show by sending your contributions to 954-635-8732. We appreciate your support. We come here every day, and we are relying on your support to come back. So thank you for that.